The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Change is the law of life. And those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. John F. Kennedy. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Peter Drucker. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Martin Luther King Jr. Government's first duty is to protect the people, not run their lives. Ronald Reagan. The harder the conflict, the greater the triumph. George Washington. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Nelson Mandela. The only thing standing between you and your goal is the story you keep telling yourself as to why you can't achieve it. Jordan Belfort. In politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way. Franklin D. Roosevelt. The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. Winston Churchill. The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted, it belongs to the brave. Ronald Reagan. If you want to make enemies, try to change something. Woodrow Wilson. Freedom is not worth having if it does not include the freedom to make mistakes. Mahatma Gandhi. The only power any government has is the power to crack down on criminals. Well, when there aren't enough criminals, one makes them. One declares so many things to be a crime that it becomes impossible for men to live without breaking laws. Ayn Rand. The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets the people to do the greatest things. Ronald Reagan. The more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. Norman Schwarzkopf. The greatest happiness you can have is knowing that you do not necessarily require happiness. William Saroyan. The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. The first rule of politics is never to say everything. Aristotle Onassis. If you're walking down the right path and you're willing to keep walking, eventually you'll make progress. Barack Obama. A good leader takes a little more than his share of the blame, a little less than his share of the credit. Arnold H. Glasgow. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. Steve Jobs. It is amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who gets the credit. Harry S. Truman. The time is always right to do what is right. Martin Luther King Jr. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. Marcus Aurelius. To be persuasive, we must be believable. To be believable, we must be credible. To be credible, we must be truthful. Edward R. Murrow. The greatest discovery of any generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitude. William James. You may have to fight a battle more than once to win it. Margaret Thatcher. You don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas. Shirley Chisholm. Power is not alluring to pure minds. Thomas Jefferson. The only thing you sometimes have control over is perspective. You don't have control over your situation, but you have a choice about how you view it. Chris Pine. It always seems impossible until it's done. Nelson Mandela. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Nelson Mandela. I do not believe in a fate that falls on men however they act, but I do believe in a fate that falls on them unless they act. G.K. Chesterton. If you want to test a man's character, give him power. Abraham Lincoln. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Martin Luther King Jr. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Mahatma Gandhi. I am not a product of my circumstances. I am a product of my decisions. Stephen R. Covey. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. Eleanor Roosevelt.